The story begins with our protagonist question himself how he died. The last thing he remembers is that he was alone in his room, a room with a magnificent royal bed raised above the floor, side tables, and a sword placed near the rack. He looks at the city from above after sliding the curtain from the window, his hand pressed against the glass. After that, his body felt heavy as he lay down on the bed, pulling the comforter over himself. Sunlight is peeking through the windows. Lying on the bed, he questions himself, was he poisoned? Was he assassinated? He commands himself to think. His name is Gray. There were too many who wanted him dead. A beautiful but strong dagger is placed beside the bed. A royal sword and an elegant gold crown with sharp carvings are enclosed in the glass rack on the side table. After all, he was a king. As much as he wants to figure out his death, he cannot do anything about it anymore. There is no choice left but to go along with it. He hopes there is no choir of winged babies singing at the end. A flash of waves crosses his mind, reminding him of past events. Someone offers congratulations, addressing Sir and Madame, and announces that he is a healthy boy. His mother asks if she just gave birth. She tells him to hold him a bit further away, dear, because she cannot see. Does that mean the light at the end of the tunnel is the light coming through a woman's? No, that is not important. She says he is beautiful. A man compliments the boy, saying he has hair just like hers. Both are looking at him with love. Wherever he is, he can understand the language. That is a good sign. A bright and gentle smile full of a mother's love shines on her face. He cannot help but think to himself, how beautiful, how charming his mother is. Tears of happiness roll down her cheeks. She says he has his eyes honey. With a strong jaw and fiercely sharp brows, she is sure that this man is strict and serious. His father calls out joyfully to his son, "Hi little Art, hearty, can he say dada?" His mother gently reminds him that Trey he was just born. His father giggles in confusion. Never mind, his surroundings seem normal enough. A candle on the stand at the corner wall is glittering. Safety armor including a cap body cover, an arm shield, is hanging on the side wall. His mother holds the baby in her lap while he looks at the ambience with his beautiful blue eyes. He questions himself, where is he? The house is in the middle of a plain field. The thatched roof has a chimney exhaust on the side. A cool breeze is blowing, making the fresh leaves fall, and a window of the house is slightly open to enjoy the wind. Weeks slowly trickle by. Although his mother, Alice, is a gentle and kind-hearted person, she holds the reins tightly in the family. His mother pats him gently while his father shows his love and concern. His father, Reynolds, is a dependable and charismatic man if his occasional childishness is ignored. While he is thankful to be born into a loving family, his life is filled with difficulties that he would not wish even upon his enemies. With little control over his limbs and unable to manage the bodily functions that come with the prison of flesh, he lies on the bed and defecates, prompting his mother to come and change his diaper. Perhaps years of mental fortitude honed as a king, a representative of his country, and the ever-faint hope that this is all a dream, are the only things keeping him sane. In the morning, his mother carries him in a backpack to the market. It seems that he has been transported to the past, into a much more archaic period. A soldier is having a casual chat with the shopkeeper while purchasing something. Looking at the long sword of the soldier, he wonders if people usually carried weapons in the past. He assumes that the vials of suspicious-looking liquids, passed off as medicine, are being sold legally. Another child with his mother is at a fruit stall, while two men are having a secret discussion, speaking ear to ear, and another man is purchasing elixir. The shopkeeper markets the elixir, saying it is great for endurance and costs just 2 coppers. His mother thinks that her little Art must be tired. She suggests they head back home. She will take 3 elixirs for her husband. The child is lying on the bed, deep in thought. Knowledge is strength. He has assessed his surroundings over the past weeks and is confident that he has a firm grasp of what to expect. His father lifts him from the bed and into the air. He greets the child, saying, "Daddy is home. How is his little man doing?" All of a sudden, he throws the baby into the air. Watching this, his mother panics and rushes toward her husband, asking what he is going to do if he drops him. His father catches him back. As expected of such a fragile body, he chuckles, thinking how strange it is to be reduced to this state by a mere toss. Laughing, he remembers that his own father did this when he was younger. Ray tells her to look, dear. He thinks their little boy is having fun. Holding the baby tightly, he swirls him around. His mother, once again, calls out to her husband in frustration. Suddenly, the boy's knee hits the wall. He begins weeping loudly with tears continuously rolling down his cheeks. His mother treats the wound with magical powers. After spiritual healing, the boy is alright. His mother holds him in her arms and says that everything is all better. He thinks he spoke too soon. Perhaps he knows nothing of this world after all. In his previous life, he was a king. Standing at the top of the fort with his queen and commander, he led his army. He commanded troops, fought in battlefields with vigor, and claimed victory over his enemies. He out-dueled representatives from countries across the world. His sharp, shining sword brought rivals to their knees. Yet, out of all his accomplishments, he has never been as proud as he is in this moment. After mastering foot movements, he can now crawl a baby. His parents are amazed to see him crawling with intensity. His mother tells Ray to make sure he doesn't hit his head on the corner. Ray assures her and asks his mother to block him from getting near the shelf. crawling at a fast pace. He unfortunately bumps into the edge of the dressing mirror. The boy is surprised to see himself in the mirror. Since birth, he has been observing his surroundings with curious eyes. This is the first time he has seen a mirror. His parents shriek with joy upon seeing Art looking at his own reflection. Months have passed, and he is still not used to his new name. As a former king, Art sounds a little too cute for his taste. Astonished, he touches the mirror and watches his own reflection. Looking at himself now, he has to admit he is absolutely adorable. He chuckles to himself, thinking he is rather handsome. Watch out, future ladies, prepare to be heartbroken. His parents are delighted to see their son playing in front of the mirror. His mother kisses him after he falls asleep in the cot. She wishes him sweet dreams and leaves the room. As soon as his mother leaves, he blinks his eyes to initiate a mission. He throws the blanket out of the cradle and scoots to the edge, aiming to jump down onto the blanket. Now that Alice believes he has fallen asleep, he is ready, eyes glittering for a secret operation. He has approximately an hour before she returns to check on him. His mother is busy washing dishes while he manages to escape quietly by crawling. He is determined. The destination is within reach, full speed ahead. After peeking through the door, he successfully enters a room. It is a small space that's been converted into a study. A lantern is burning. Some books rest on the shelves while others lie scattered on the floor. Upon reaching the room, he silently celebrates his success. Ever since discovering this place, he has been sneaking in every night to learn more about this world. There is a secret map of kingdoms. Dicathan, the continent he finds himself in, comprises 3 major kingdoms: Eleanor, the elven kingdom deep in the forest with its misty woods and wolves on the prowl; Darv, the vast underground kingdom, home of the dwarves; and Sapin, the human kingdom, the most populated region. Both this world and his previous one follow a monarch system. However, rulership here is inherited, not earned. While trying to reach a book on the top shelf, he falls down with the book landing beside him. He realized early on that this world is vastly underdeveloped compared to his old one. The reason for the lack of technological advancement, he discovered, is magic. The candle's flickering flame reveals a book titled Beginner's Guide for the Privileged Mage. Opening the book, he finds himself at the page where he had left off before. In his old world, they had a life force called Ki, used by practitioners to enhance their bodies and weapons through intense training. This world has a similar force, mana. But unlike Ki, which existed only within a person, mana is present all around them. As he reads the mysterious facts, he begins scratching his back. The irritation is from a diaper rash. Anyway, mana can be used in various ways. The 2 most common methods are augmenting and conjuring. Augmenters use mana to enhance their bodies, granting them great strength, defense, and agility. However, their weakness lies in their limited range. Conjurers, on the other hand, emit mana externally, allowing them to manipulate the environment. But they must supplement their mana core with ambient mana to form spells. His mother is what they call a deviant, more specifically, an emitter who healed him when he injured his knee. Deviants are a rare type of mage capable of casting unique restorative magic. He continues reading with full concentration. According to the book, a mage's first awakening occurs between early adolescence and the late teenage years when their mana core manifests. The mana core sounds similar to the Ki similar in his previous life. To form a Ki center, children were taught to meditate and sense the scattered fragments of Ki within their bodies, gathering them into one place. He wonders, he places the fingers of his hand together, and a shining ball begins to form. It's working. Suddenly his mother appears and picks him up. She laughs upon finding him and says she was worried. Looking at him, she asks if he's having trouble going poopy. He thinks to himself that he is on the verge of beginning his journey to become the greatest mage in the world. Do not reduce him to a constipated infant. She guesses he didn't have trouble at all. It's time to change his diaper, because he has defecated. As it turns out, amidst all his deep concentration, he had indeed soiled his diaper. Some of the books on the lower shelves are scattered. His mother sits on a chair to write a few words in her notebook. She opens the book, dips a pen into ink, and begins to write. It has been a little over 2 years now, yet it still feels like she learns something new about her baby with each passing day. She has come to the conclusion that Arthur must be the most adorable baby in the world. She picks him up, and he giggles. With his little patch of auburn hair and azure eyes that gaze at her with surprising intelligence, she knows he will get into trouble in the future if she does not become a strict and dependable mother. She cannot rely on Ray. She was carrying clothes out for washing when she caught Ray trying to teach Art how to fight. Art was holding a stick. Seeing this, she lost her temper and rushed over to scold both father and son. As she notes down her thoughts, her pen runs out of ink and begins to scratch the paper. And this was when Arthur could barely crawl. She had taken him to the market in a backpack carrier, where he tried to grab something. One thing she has observed is that Arthur absolutely loves visiting the small merchant strip in central Ashbur. So instead of shopping for groceries once or twice a week, they now go downtown almost every other day. He once tried to grab some shining stones, likely diamonds. He was amazed to see a man holding a magical curved wooden stick with light glittering from his hands. She insists she is not spoiling him. A man kneeling on one knee seemed to be trying to stop something. Her goal is simply to have fresh food in the house for educational purposes. Watching Arthur grow up so quickly, she wonders what he will be like when he is older. She continues writing down her thoughts. With Rei as his father, she has no doubt he will take an interest in becoming an adventurer. She often sees places where soldiers are having casual conversations. Still, she cannot help but worry. She can only hope that he fares better than the naive young teens who dream of becoming great adventurers. If only she could do something about his constant habit of sneaking into the study room. She is tempted to move his crib into the study itself, but that decision is for another day. She closes the notebook, places the ink pen back into the pot, and walks away. Arthur climbs onto a stool to sneak a look through the window. Looking outside, he spots a muscular man performing exercises. About 2 years have passed since his first difficult journey to the study. He has learned a great deal since then, but the experience of learning new things every day remains fascinating. He has been chanting something for several minutes now, focusing with all his might. Stones begin to rise into the air. He wonders what kind of magical phenomenon he will witness. Arthur is amazed as the stones lift steadily, powered by the man's concentration. Rei lifted the stones with his concentration and hurled all of them away in a single blow. Arthur was observing everything from the window. Rei, overjoyed, exclaimed that his daddy was awesome. Arthur thought to himself, was that it? 3 minutes of intense concentration just to fling something he could physically throw with less effort. His mother came over and patted him gently, asking if he was watching his daddy. Looking outside, she frowned and muttered that Rei had ruined the front yard again. Rei picked up his gloves and slid them onto his hands. Arthur had learned early on that his father was an augmenter. He wondered what path he would follow once his own mana core awakened. Rei began another drill, this time using his feet to enhance his movements as he sent more objects flying. Little Arthur and his mother continued to observe from the window. When Arthur turned back around, he was startled by how high up he was standing. Perplexed and unsteady, he began to climb down with trembling legs. His mother noticed, saying his eyes were half closed. She lifted him into her lap, kissed him, and said that someone clearly needed a nap. As they passed by the study room, Arthur pointed and said, "Mama, there are books." She replied that he knew it was nap time and he could read after resting. Arthur looked disappointed. He then pushed against her and pleaded for the books. Agitated but giving in, she allowed him to play in the study for a little while. She regretted not being a more firm mother. Boys his age needed lots of play, and she had made sure the room was baby-proofed. Arthur, however, didn't see this as demeaning. A great warrior, after all, must use every tool in his arsenal. Once inside the study, he immediately began reading. His mother watched him fondly, touched by how adorable he looked. Suddenly she remembered Rei, still exercising outside. Muttering that he had better not have knocked down another tree, she stepped away, saying she'd be right back. Arthur glanced after her. His greatest achievement, aside from the knowledge he'd accumulated about this world, was his progress in forming his mana core. With an open book before him and his hands pressed together, he began to meditate. A faint, divine circle started to grow beneath him. He had spent the last 2 years gathering tens of thousands of tiny fragments of mana within his body, concentrating them near his solar plexus. He now understood why it usually took until adolescence to form naturally. The fragments moved incredibly slowly toward the center of the body. It was a grueling process, taxing both body and mind. Beads of sweat formed and began to roll down his cheek. But these 2 years had not gone to waste. He was almost there. Meanwhile, his mother carried a drink out to Rei, who was in the garden breaking apart another tree. High above, eagles glided across the sky. Then, just as Arthur brought the last piece of mana into place, there was a sudden blast. His mother was thrown to the ground. Rei immediately rushed to her, shielding her from the explosion with his body as best as he could. After hearing the blast, Rei rushed to save his wife. He shielded her by grabbing her in his arms. During this instance, many small fragments of bricks, stones, and wood hit his back. His shirt was torn, and he received many wounds on his body. He asked his wife if he was okay. But instead of responding about his condition, she asked about her son Art. She shrieked that Arthur was still in there. Upon hearing this, Rei moved with wind-like speed, dashing into the blast area where he moved the remnants away using his muscular strength. After removing stones and a wooden log, he was surprised to see something and kneeled down in love, starting to laugh. She asked what was wrong with Reynolds. She thought he had to be kidding her. She was worried and said Arthur was not even there. But he already was. Arthur was still in meditation. He felt glad and thought that he felt great. So this is what it feels like to have a mana core. Coming out of there, he gladly thought that even the trees looked greener. With his eyes wide open, he observed the surroundings, and it was unbelievable. He said to himself to wait a minute, what the hell was going on? He thought they had been attacked, judging by the havoc. Who dared to destroy the home of a king? He was reading a book while lying on the bed. Over the past year, along with his mother teaching him how to read and write, he had been learning the basics of mana manipulation and augmentation. His father tried to explain these concepts pictorially. At first, since his body was too small for sparring, they did basic body workouts. He got tense during running with his father. Rei used to assist him in doing various workouts. He tried a headstand after observing Rei. It was not too long ago when his father finally decided he would be okay to practice with the wooden sword he had given him for his 3rd birthday. The sword had a firm grip wrapped in cotton cloth so his hand would not slip during practice. While he was reading a book, his father appeared and said it was time to train Champ. He had his sword and told him to come on. He took him to the ground and reminded him to recall what he had taught him. He told him to match the flow of mana with his breathing. Just like his heart or lungs, his core was just another organ. Little Arthur wondered if most 4-year-olds would understand these abstract instructions. He showed a fascinating move and, with a single strike, knocked down the stick that his father was holding. His father encouraged him, saying he thought Arthur could do it. Hearing this, Arthur got angry. He said his father was not going to let him rest until he succeeded. He only had a little bit of time left to study before dinner. His eyes sparkled in anger. With a single strike, he smashed his father's stick, which fascinated Ray. Then he asked if he could go study now. Ray allowed him. He sat on the bed for meditation. In this world, strength is measured by the color of one's mana core. The mana core starts off black due to the body's blood and other impurities mixing with the mana particles forming the mana core. The mana core becomes more pure as the impurities are filtered out over time. The order goes as follows: black, red, orange, yellow, silver, and white. Each stage is split into 3 shades. Number 1 is dark, 2nd is solid, and 3rd is light. The lighter the mana core, the purer it is and the more power it holds. Someone called him, saying Arthur, it was time for dinner. This diverted his attention and made him angry, and he cursed. The plate was ready, and along with a glass of water, it was lying on the dining table. Father and mother were busy finishing their portion. Arthur was making a bite furiously, thinking if a baby could not get some alone time around here, how else was he supposed to learn? Ray got a headache. He told his wife he thought it was time they got Art a proper mentor. Mother took a stand against Ray's decision to place Arthur under the supervision of a mentor. She said angrily that he was only 4 Reynolds. Besides, he had said he would be the one to teach him. Ray defended his stance by saying that exactly, but he never expected their son to be such a prodigy in mana manipulation at just 4 years old. He felt he was holding him back. Arthur had so much potential. Both had a strong argument. She emphasized that she was not going to let her child leave home to go to some city hundreds of miles away. Ray argued that Shyrus was not just some city, and he would make sure his friend took care of him. Arthur let out a deep sigh. Their argument was happening so fast that they couldn't understand each other. Ray pointed to Arthur and brought him into the discussion. He said that Art had a say in this too. Did he want to go to a big city and have a real teacher? He got confused and started thinking if he was really being allowed to decide. Wasn't this a bit too much to ask of a 4-year-old? He asked if Mommy and Daddy could come too and meet the teacher together. Ray and his wife looked at each other in a state of confusion. Meanwhile, Arthur kept wondering if he had said something wrong. Was his sentence too complicated? Both of them chuckled loudly. Ray said he guessed they really hadn't thought about all of them going together. She said she might feel better about the whole thing if she were there when he was tested and met his teacher. Ray excitedly hit the table, making the dinner plate splash into the air. He said that then it looked like they were all going to Cirrus City. And so, he was shocked to overhear his parents already preparing for the 3-week journey. He was reading a book while lying on the bed. He thought he had seen it here somewhere. Mother angrily took the book from him and told him to get to bed. They were heading out early tomorrow. He asked in disappointment if it was really tomorrow. So soon? Mother replied that she knew. Honey, she hated rushing like this too. But his mom and dad's old friends from the Twin Horns were going to Cyrus as well, so they were taking them along. His dad was with them right now. She kissed Arthur's forehead so he could sleep better. She said she better not catch him staying up reading again. He could bring some books for the trip tomorrow, so go to sleep. He said, okay Mom, good night. Both exchanged well wishes. He knew the Twin Horns had been in the area for a while, even helping to rebuild their home when they had time. From what he heard, the party consisted of 2 conjurers and 3 augmenters. This would help with whatever trouble they might run into. He was finally moving on from this small, quiet town. It was time to see what the world truly had to offer. Early in the morning, they started their journey, carrying basic belongings. In the distance, they caught sight of their travel companions. Ray hugged his friend, thanking him again for taking them along on this trip. He said, fellas, he wanted them all to meet his son. He pointed at Arthur and asked him to introduce himself. Arthur bent down respectfully and said that his name was Arthur Leywin. He thanked them for coming with them to Cyrus. Rhee's friend appreciated his attitude and manners. He jokingly asked Arthur if he was sure Rhee was his dad. The man was Adam Cringe, an augmenter specializing in the spear. A lady squeezed Arthur against her chest. She said he was just too precious and that they should be thankful he looked more like his mom. The woman was Angela Rose, a conjurer with a specialty in wind magic. Arthur felt irritated and thought, what was going on? He couldn't breathe. A hand pulled him away from Angela. He said that Angela was hurting him. He was Durden Walker, a conjurer with a specialty in earth magic. Arthur felt happy after interacting with him. Jasmine Flamesworth, an augmenter with a specialty in dual daggers, said not to mind her. She just needed to get used to him. Another lady holding a bow and arrow welcomed him. She said it was nice to meet him. Her name was Helen Shard. She was an augmenter with a specialty in magic archery. Ray announced that now that everyone was acquainted, they should prepare to move on. Everyone began the struggle of loading luggage into the cart. Someone from the front asked if everyone was ready. Angela responded that they were all good. Both carts started moving. Arthur looked outside from the open space. And so, the journey began. While continuing their journey, everyone began to feel hungry. They made a short stop to cook something. Except for Arthur and his mother, everyone participated in hunting animals so they could prepare dinner. Arthur seemed disappointed. Helen asked how he was holding up. He replied he was tired. Upon hearing this, he nodded. She told him not to worry about it. It was his first time traveling like this. Arthur said he guessed so, in this life at least. She teased him, saying that his father had been bragging nearly the entire way that he was a genius mage. Had he really awakened a year ago? They both continued their conversation. Adam asked Reynolds if he needed to do a little stretching before going to sleep. He added that he had been sparring with his boy, and asked if he minded if he played around with art. Arthur, feeling irritated, thought angrily that Adam should stretch by himself. Ray reminded him to be careful, saying they had just barely moved from light strength and mana exercises into sparring. Adam picked Arthur up by the collar and took him away. Normal kids his age would barely be able to climb a flight of stairs, but apparently here no one thought fighting him was unusual. Both got into their positions for attacking. Adam asked Arthur if he knew how to reinforce his weapon, calling him boy genius. Adam then roared like a lion. Arthur grew nervous, realizing everyone was watching their exercise. He and Ray had a telepathic conversation where Arthur asked Ray to get him out of this mess, saying the redhead was out for blood. Ray encouraged him to go get him, but it didn't help much. Suddenly, Arthur assumed the stance of a warrior. He pounced at Adam with his sharpened sword, launching himself from the ground. He aimed to attack. Adam positioned himself to defend. The reverberation from the clash of their weapons caused Arthur to slip. He cursed himself, blaming his infantile body, but he still managed to attack with more force. For a few moments, both exchanged attacks and defenses in various positions. At that moment, Newton's third law of motion came to mind: for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. At last, Arthur fell back. His mother became worried. And boy, did that opposite reaction hurt. Walker slapped Adam for hitting the kid too hard and grabbed him by the hair. Adam asked what kind of training Ray had put Arthur through to turn him into such a little monster. Ray chuckled and said he didn't teach him that. Arthur's mother healed him using magical healing powers. She chanted as she asked if this was what he had been studying. Arthur gained relief by explaining that he had learned it by watching his dad and reading some books. Everyone was astonished to hear that he had learned such things from books. Adam asked in disbelief, "Books?" Still, he said he would teach Arthur some of those movement techniques of his. Arthur giggled and explained that he just had to cross his back leg over his lead leg, then kick off with mana while letting his body almost fall, and then sort of, well, something like that. Two of the warriors tried it and slipped, falling down. One of them even bumped into a tree. Several days had passed since they began their journey to Xyrus City. There was a beautiful waterfall cascading from the mountains. They made a short stop to freshen up. His mother began to give Arthur a bath. During this time, his birthday also passed. Jasmine gifted him a dagger for his birthday along with some lessons. Adam enjoyed diving into the water. Training with Adam, Helen, and his father continued and showed decent progress so far. Helen jumped from the top of the mountain, splashing water everywhere. A fish leapt out and hit Jasmine on the head. But to Arthur's surprise, Jasmine had already succeeded in learning a few techniques. Helen held Ray by locking his hands while Adam began fondling his chest with a soft, tiny bush. It still amazed him how quickly Jasmine was able to grasp his instructions, especially when learning feint step. After enjoying some amusement, they were ready to continue their journey. His mother told him to come on. They were leaving now. He stood up with renewed zeal and energy. The journey resumed, heading towards Xyrus City. Adam called out to Arthur and said he remembered his father getting them into all sorts of trouble. Jasmine leaned down from the roof of the cart and interrupted, saying she was pretty sure Ray wasn't the only one who caused trouble. Wasn't there a time when Adam accidentally set something off? Everyone started laughing. Adam asked what that was about, then dismissed it with a, "Never mind, just a little rodent." His mother coughed. Arthur became worried and asked her what had happened. She told him it was nothing, just tiredness from traveling. Arthur began reading a book he had brought from home. While reading, he became anxious, and someone beside him asked if he could teach her more. He was shocked after reading some of the words. Suddenly the cart was shaken, and everyone grew concerned. His mother asked what was going on. Jasmine announced that it was bandits and told everyone to prepare to engage. Angela got ready to use her wind magic. She stood up and drew her dagger, declaring, "Submit, O wind, and follow my will. Gather and protect." The wind began to blow at a fast pace. Sharp-pointed arrows were aimed at the cart. A huge clash and repulsion occurred, and a fight broke out. Every augmenter and conjurer engaged in the defense, each using their own magical powers. Arthur and his mother observed the entire scene from the cart. Arthur looked around anxiously, realizing they were completely surrounded. The attackers continuously aimed at the area around the carts. Then their leader appeared, muscular man holding a large, heavy axe. He praised his men, saying it was a pretty good catch. He ordered them to leave only the woman and the kid alive, and to try not to leave any scars. After all, damaged goods would only sell for less. It seems he has been living in a bubble for too long. The leader appeared with a grim smile. He almost forgot that every world has its own share of filth like him. He was stunned. Arthur pulled out his dagger. He seemed disappointed. His mother hugged him and said there was no need to worry. She was there. One of the enemies sharply aimed an arrow at the cart. Ray and his friend made a collaborative effort to gather and guard. Using magical powers, they established an earth wall around them for defense. 2 sharp arrows were about to reach the cart where Arthur and his mother were hiding. Angela diverted the arrows using magical wind power. Helen swiftly attacked the leader of the enemies. She jumped from above to strike one of them. Ray also attacked 2 of the enemies, and one of them tried to strike him with a sword. Helen provided cover and pierced an arrow through the chest of the enemy who was trying to strike with the sword. Adam also proved his talent for killing. He stabbed a muscular, gigantic enemy. The enemies were startled to see their skills. They had not imagined such prowess. Jasmine had barely escaped the whipping of a rope. He was a monster with eagle-like hands. He challenged Jasmine, telling her to stop struggling, saying he would train her so well she would be begging to stay with him in the end. She became furious but still managed to dodge his attacks. Arthur was observing the scene and thought she was at a disadvantage due to her opponent's range. But could he help? Being a fighter is one thing, but does he stand a chance against an adult augmenter with his current body? Ray received a heavy strike from an enemy that sent him flying to the side of the cart. Blood began to ooze from his mouth. His wife and Arthur became worried. The man who attacked Ray was the leader of the enemies. His wife, upon seeing Ray, started trembling in confusion. Arthur told his mother that she had to heal him quickly. Something was wrong with his mother because she could not heal. Arthur was worried, wondering why she wasn't healing his father. Ray tried to calm his sobbing wife by bragging that he was fine and his injuries were not life-threatening. She was unable to use her healing powers. He encouraged her, saying she didn't need to worry and should do her best. Ray asked Arthur to listen carefully after his mother uses her healing spell. Those bad men will go after her. He would be able to fend off the leader, but not if he had to protect them both. He ordered Arthur to take his mother back down the trail they came from and not to stop. Arthur asked Ray what he was talking about. He said he wasn't going to leave him. He could fight. He had seen him do it. Ray tapped his head and asked him to listen. Arthur Leywin, he knew he could fight. That was why he was entrusting his mother to him. He told him to protect her and protect the baby inside her. Arthur remembered the way his father was patting and tickling his mother. She said she was a little tired. She would be okay. His mother was pregnant. Ray placed his hand on Arthur's head, telling him that he had been planning to tell him when they got to Cyrus, but Arthur held his father's hand and promised that he would protect his mother. Ray told him to get ready. Ray said they had 4 mages on their side. Observing the healing process, the leader of the enemies became furious and told his subordinates that they had a healer and to not let her get away. Hearing this, Arthur rushed off holding his mother's hand. Arthur thought, "Don't down me, Dad." Adam appeared all of a sudden and provided cover for Arthur and his mother. He said he would hold the enemy down and told them to get out of there. Arthur repelled an arrow shot with a wooden dagger, which broke. Jasmine told him not to stop. They both rushed forward. Something was wrong. There were supposed to be 4 mages. He counted 3 but couldn't see the 4th one. The leader said to forget the plan, Damien, and not to let them live. Who was he talking to? An enemy created a magical swirling circle to finish off Arthur and his mother. Seeing this, Arthur rushed forward, but the issue was that even if he could use mana to dodge it, his mom wouldn't be fast enough to manage. He suddenly turned back. Sorry for the bruises, Mom. He pushed his mother back. He knew that if he couldn't make it, he wanted to take the mage down with him. He used magical power to pull, and the dagger inside the swirl moved back toward the enemy. Let's hope this mana string holds out. Arthur grabbed the mana string tightly, which prevented him from falling. When the enemy was holding onto the edge of the cliff, the stones cracked, and being unbalanced, he fell. Seeing this, his comrade used magical power to save him. Arthur was also falling. He thought it looked like everyone else would be fine. He had always wanted to be an older brother. He woke up rubbing his eyes. After stepping out, he opened the door. A servant holding something on a plate was standing in front of the door. He moved out of the room. The servants greeted him by saying, "Good morning, King Gray." He entered another hall where an old man with long hair and a beard was amazed to see him. King Gray was busy looking at pictures on the wall. One picture was titled "The Council 30xy." The council, those who actually governed the country, managed its politics and economy. Another picture was of King Gray, a duel winner in the country. In a world riddled with problems like decreasing birth rates and limited resources, wars had been replaced by duels and armies by kings. He was one of them. The old man thought, admiring his handiwork is he. While being part of the council is rewarding, he wouldn't lie and say he wasn't envious of the fame and glory these kings received upon their victories. The old man said anyway, to what does he owe the pleasure of this unexpected visit? King Gray took off a gold medal from his neck and placed it on the table. After placing the gold, left the hall, saying that he was retiring. Marlorn called out. Gray, hold on. He had spent his whole life striving to be the strongest. He thought, and for what? Fame, glory. He was still an orphan, with everyone he cherished gone. Fire blazed in the wooden pieces. He would give up everything he had in that life for the chance to go back to Ashbur and see them all again. He remembered the previous time when they were all cherishing each other's company and having a chit-chat. After falling down, he wondered where he was. How was he still alive? Regaining full consciousness, he saw a corpse with a dagger stabbed in its leg. He stepped up to retch but only spit. Again he fell down, and after a few moments, he woke up sniffing a leaf that had fallen from a tree. Arthur caught sight of scattered sweets. He took one and drank water. He was too weak to stand. Arthur thanked whoever had left the meal. Birds were chirping and gliding in the air. After struggling so much, he managed to stand up. He turned back, got an idea, and pulled the dagger out of the corpse. He pulled it out with such force that he fell backward after taking it out. Looking at the sky and the dense, lush green trees, he thought that he had survived. But how long had it been? Arthur took a stick from a nearby tree. It didn't matter, was he move on? Arthur stumbled. Moving across the trees, Arthur heard a voice. Was he awake? Terrified, Arthur hid behind a tree. Peeking out, he saw that the corpse was still lying on the ground. At first he was scared, thinking the man on the ground had woken up and was speaking. But after getting a clear view of the corpse, he trembled. Arthur thought, don't tell him the corpse is speaking. Again, he heard a voice. Someone asked how his body was. He mustered up courage and quickly moved near the dead man. He thought to himself that he swears if it gets up he's gonna fight. Once again, he heard someone say not to worry. The corpse wouldn't be reanimating, if that's what he was afraid of. Arthur sighed in relief, but then quickly became alert again, thinking he shouldn't trust an unknown voice, no matter how silky smooth and dignified it sounded. Arthur pointed his dagger and asked who the speaker was. Was he the one who saved him? Luckily, it was just a small rabbit that managed to escape by jumping. Again, he heard a voice confirm his second question. As for the first, he would find out once he arrived at the speaker's dwelling. Arthur angrily replied that he sounded pretty confident he would even try to find him. The voice said that he was the only one who could get Arthur home from this place. That's right, home Ray Alice and the twin horns. His mother chuckled at the thought of her baby siblings. Arthur was walking away thinking, are they all right? Did they reach Shiras safely? He wondered if the voice belonged to that mysterious person. Maybe he could ask for directions so that he might honor them with his presence. Someone chuckled at this. The hidden speaker said Arthur caught on quickly. Arthur Leywin. Although it was a bit rude to refer to a lady as Mr. But his intent was clear, so yes, Arthur thought. Wait, how did she know his name? The speaker said she would show him. A heavy rock-like object fell to the ground. Arthur bent down due to its echo. He heard the voice advising him to depart immediately. It would be much safer to travel while it was still light out. As his body gradually recovered, leaving him with only a few H's by the afternoon, he couldn't help but think. He was standing on a large tree stem acting as a bridge over a cliff. What kind of magic had she used to save him from falling? How could she have even known they were falling? And why did she only save him? These questions ran through Arthur's mind. The more he tried to find answers, the more questions he ended up with. Arthur tried to climb over the stone, hoping it was what he thought it was. On the other side, he found a water reservoir. Excited, he took off his clothes and jumped in to bathe and relax. While washing his clothes, he heard the mysterious woman say how pleasantly carefree he was. Hearing this, he got embarrassed and covered his body. She told him not to worry, there wasn't much to see. These words hit him hard. Wearing his torn shirt in embarrassment, he heard her say that they were just words. Arthur, a king, must remain calm and unfazed. She apologized for startling him and told him not to pout. His body was just underdeveloped, that was all. He filled a container with water and ate something. Since he had fallen off the mountain toward the east, he guessed he must be near the elves' domain. Looking up, he realized there was no fog, the kind the forest of Usher was known for. His fears of traveling through the beast glades were eased by the fact that only small animals seemed to be present. Still, he was surprised he hadn't seen any mana beasts, considering how rich the area was with mana. It was unfortunate that he couldn't stay to absorb some of it, but he needed to hurry. Then he suddenly thought of his mother. He needed to get back to his parents. With his mother pregnant, the stress of believing he had died might even endanger the baby if they were still alive. He reached the other side. She said she was glad he made it there safely. He approached the mountain and held onto a thin stem. A bird was chirping. He asked if it was nice to meet him. She replied that as interesting as it would be. She wasn't a sentient cluster of rocks. He would find her within the crevice. Entering the cave, he saw a shining object and was amazed. He thought, Dad, Mom, he would be home soon. He was stepping up recklessly. She warned him to watch his step. The stone cracked beneath him, and he fell hard to the ground with great force. As he stood up, he thought to himself that a warning about dropping 2 stories would have been nice. Then he caught sight of a creature with blazing red eyes. Terrified, he asked, "What is that?" She responded, "We finally meet, child." He stood baffled, staring at her. She teased, "Bugs will fly into your mouth if you keep it open that wide." Her nails were sharp and pointed. Arthur quickly closed his mouth. She moved her finger in a gesture that resembled a handshake. She told him it would take some time for her to open a dimensional rift strong enough to send him home. Meanwhile, there were special plants that could nourish him until then. Around him were large, colorful, glowing plants. Arthur thanked her and moved toward the plants. He plucked a purple-colored fruit from a stem. It shimmered like a mirror. He could even see his reflection in it. The sight reminded him of his father and mother enjoying fruit together. As he was about to remove the fruit, she pointed out, "That one tastes better." He chose it instead. The fruit's juice splashed over his hands as he bit into it, and he savored its flavor. Arthur asked, "You said you were a lady, but is there a better way I can address you?" She replied, "My name is Sylvia. Do you mind if I ask a few questions?" He asked. "Go ahead, little one," she answered. "Though I may not be able to answer everything." With his initial fear of Sylvia's appearance fading, he finally asked all the questions that had weighed on his mind since waking up after the fall. Where was this place? Why was she here all alone? Where did she come from? How did she get that wound? And why did she save him? Sylvia answered, "Your first question is an easy one. This place is a narrow zone between the Beast Glades and the forest of Elshire. No one knows about it because I've been warding off anyone who comes near, though that rarely happens anyway. You, Arthur, are the first to enter this domain." He chuckled. "You can call me Art. That's what my family calls me. It's short for Arthur." She nodded. "Very well, I'll call you Art. For your second question," she continued, "I'm here alone simply because I have no one left. I have many enemies who desperately want something I possess." She revealed her wound. "My last battle with them, before I managed to escape, left me with this injury. As for why I saved you, perhaps I was moved by your courage and sacrifice, or maybe I've just grown lonely. Even I don't fully understand it." Her voice softened with emotion. She apologized to Arthur. "But I'll excuse myself for the night. My wound is festering, and I need to be in good condition to work on the dimensional rift tomorrow." Arthur wished her a good night. As the fearsome figure, clad in dark armor, walked away, Arthur couldn't help but notice how lonely she seemed. Just before she left, she added, "Oh, I almost forgot. I can't see exactly where they've gone, but your family and friends are safe. Just in case you weren't sure." Arthur's heart filled with joy. Tears of happiness rolled down his cheeks. "Thank you, Sylvia," he whispered. Arthur jumped, trying to take the fruit. Sylvia assisted him by lifting him to the level where he could easily pick the fruit. Sylvia and he spent hours talking about all sorts of things when she was not preparing the portal. He enjoyed her company. Those hours turned into days, and those days into weeks as they spent every moment together, and Sylvia never spoke about her own life. He slowly began to understand what sort of person this mysterious being was. He sat atop a stone and began meditating. While establishing a connection with divine powers, he peeked. He saw Sylvia picking up fruits. Sylvia was the living embodiment of the phrase, "Do not judge a book by its cover." Despite her trauma-inducing appearance, she was kind, gentle, patient, and warm. She asked Arthur if he had had a chance to eat yet. These fruits were particularly savory and rarely grew elsewhere. She gave him 2 pieces of fruit. She reminded him of his mother in that she was gentle and kind. He took 1 fruit, but his mother had firmly scolded him when he was wrong. He suddenly remembered something unpleasant. There was a time when he had expressed his animosity toward the bandits. They deserved worse deaths if any of them made it out alive. Arthur ground his teeth in anger. He thought he was going to hunt them down. Sylvia knocked him away with a flick of her finger. He rolled down to another place and asked what that was for. She told him that perhaps he was not wrong in thinking those bandits deserved death. She had chosen not to save the mage he fell with for the same reason. Arthur asked why she had then. She answered that letting his heart be clouded with hatred and vengeance like this would only harm himself. Instead, he should continue proudly with his life. With his gaze forward, he would come across misfortunes again, but he must not let grief and rage corrode his mind. He should learn from them and face the future with a smile. Sylvia held Arthur in her hand. Only then would he truly be victorious. She asked if she had flicked him too hard. Did it still hurt, Arthur? Being lectured on morals and lie, a figure that appeared to embody evil had oddly struck him deeply. She called him again and again. She asked why he was not eating the fruit. Was something wrong? He responded that he was fine. He began to eat. Liquid was oozing from her wound. He said that Sylvia, her wound looked like it was getting worse. She answered not to worry, little one. This wound festered from time to time. He asked if that was really the case. Also, she had been meaning to ask. It was her understanding that humans usually awakened around the age of 12 or 13. How had he already formed his mana core and become able to utilize mana more efficiently than many full-fledged mages? He bragged that his parents said he was a genius. She said that perhaps he would be able to learn it then. He asked what he was supposed to learn. She replied that it was to meditate and absorb mana while moving, and perhaps even while fighting if he was good enough. He asked in surprise how she was doing that. She said that humans had a very linear mindset when it came to mana. Just start with small mindless movements and work his way up from there. Arthur closed his fist and demonstrated his powers. Easier said than done. Mana beasts learned to do this naturally, but since humans usually awakened much later, their bodies were not able to multitask in this way. Considering that this limitation did not apply to him, if he practiced hard enough, he should be able to succeed. He felt fully motivated and said he would do his best. Sylvia chuckled and said that he should. Arthur got ready to attack, but unfortunately, with a single strike, he fell down. Practicing this skill to its fullest essentially meant being able to fight proficiently while still maintaining a steady inward flow of mana. He practiced a lot until sweat rolled down his cheeks. His hand developed a strong grip. It could not be. He said that Sylvia, he had done it. His eyes remained fixed after watching something. He called her Sylvia. Arthur was amazed at the huge amount of blood coming from Sylvia's wound. He asked her what had happened. His soul got stuck in the thick mucus and blood. Sylvia was about to fall. He held her body and tried hard, but all in vain. She fell to the ground. He asked why her wound was getting worse so quickly. It couldn't be, but suddenly he remembered Sylvia crying in pain. He kneeled down in regret. It was getting worse because she was creating the portal. Her wound was getting worse. She did it all because of him. He cried out. Sylvia held him in her hand and calmed him down, saying it was okay, little one. He wept so deeply that his face was filled with tears. He asked, sobbing, how it could be fine when she was dying for him. He cried. He cried for longer than he cared to admit, and he cried for the first time like the child he was on the outside. She asked if he had calmed down a little. Art. They didn't have much time left together, and she would hate for it to be wasted with him blaming himself over this. He was still crying constantly. He asked how he could not blame himself. She was basically sacrificing herself so that he could meet his family. She told him that he was doing her a favor by allowing her to leave this Forsaken cave a bit faster. He called Sylvia. She said that her name really did not suit this form, did it? The upper layer of her skin started breaking off. Her outer core broke away, and a golden light emerged. She appeared like a beautiful flying horse. She had wings, a beautiful tail, horns, and a stunning white body. She asked if now she looked a bit more like a Sylvia. He was shocked to see this. He asked if Sylvia was a dragon. She replied that yes, she supposed she was what humans referred to as a dragon. But they had little time for idle chatter. Now that she was in this form, she had to use her original form to finish the portal. But now that her veil was gone, they would soon be coming. Saying this, she flew away. Arthur inquired who they were who was coming. Before flying off, she turned back and asked Arthur to listen carefully. There were a few things she had to say before they parted ways. She handed over an oval-shaped object. Arthur thought it wasn't heavy, yet he felt like he could barely hold on to it. She also gave him her feather and asked him to wrap it around the object to conceal its aura. He asked in confusion what it was. She said, and please bear with her for one more thing. She struck him. His hands turned red, and some writing appeared. She said that with this, everything would reveal itself when the time came. Arthur asked if her eyes were okay. She told him she would open the portal now. She didn't have time to make it go directly to his home, but he should arrive near the humans. He asked if just like that, he was leaving her. Stones were falling from the roof. He was protected from one stone as Sylvia provided him a shield. She heard a voice, someone calling her, saying Lady Sylvia, advising her to cease her stubbornness and hand it over. Submit now, and perhaps he might even heal her wound. Arthur moved Sylvia's feather aside out of curiosity to get a glimpse of the new person. He thought the person looked similar to Sylvia's previous form. She had already caused them quite a bit of trouble after hiding. Sylvia stepped aside and said she had a bit of a confession to make. Arthur, truth be told, she had intentionally prolonged the transportation spell so she could spend more time with him. He became emotional after seeing blood and fluid coming from her wound. She said she wouldn't ask him to forgive her, but she did have one more selfish request. Could he call her grandma just this once? Arthur held her wing tightly and begged her to just come with him. He didn't know what she had done, but everything was frozen now. They could leave together. Tears rolled down her eyes as she said he knew she couldn't. After saying farewell to Arthur, she flew away. He called her Sylvia, but she reminded him to call her grandma. She thanked her child. Arthur was sad because of Sylvia. She had left him and flown away. He was lying on the ground in disappointment. She was gone. He would never have the chance to see her again. He shouted so loudly that even the crows sitting at the top bark of a tree flew away. His voice was so horrendous and sorrowful that even the crows were unable to bear it. His mind swam with memories of the nearly 4 months he had spent with Sylvia. For a time that seemed both long and short, Sylvia had treated him like her own blood. She had taught him the things he had lacked since coming to this world. There was a strange sound like horses running. He stood up in confusion. It was Sylvia's voice testing the sound. She greeted Arthur. He asked in confusion if Sylvia was still here. She answered that this was Sylvia. If he was hearing this right now, it meant she had shown him what she actually was. He thought it was a message that Sylvia had managed to leave earlier when she had placed her mouth near his body. She said that as frustrating as it may seem, he was nowhere near ready for the whole truth. His body was that of a boy barely past 4, and while his mana core had already progressed to the dark red stage, he was not strong enough. As a small parting gift, she had infused her unique will onto him. His future development as a mage would depend on how well he could use her gift. He grabbed his shirt. He thought who asked for the gift. He would rather have her instead. She said that she could imagine what he might be feeling right now. Sorrow, anger, guilt. but he had a family to look out for and a purpose to fulfill in this life. Her only wish for him was to embrace the joys and innocence of childhood and to become a man of whom both his parents and she could be proud. Arthur bent down to pick up the oval-shaped object wrapped in Sylvia's feather. She said that when his manicore passed the white stage, he would hear from her once more. At that time, she would explain everything. So until then, she bid him farewell, King Grey. Questions continued to pester him long after Sylvia's voice disappeared. He asked how long she had known his identity. How did she even know? One thing was clear though, if he focused only on training for the sake of revenge, this life would hardly be different from his last one. From now, he could only move forward. Looking at the surroundings, he thought about where he was. He continued to move forward and then, with fast speed, climbed up a tree. Even with mana, his vision was restricted, but one thing was clear. He was deep within the Elshire forest. Arthur jumped from one tree to another. Even just barely being able to use the mana rotation Sylvia had taught him, he was able to use magic for a lot longer. Still, he couldn't help but wonder how he had ended up here. Sylvia had said that he would arrive near other humans. No matter, he would just keep looking around. He was getting pretty good at this tree traveling business. He seemed like a monkey. That sounded like a human. He had a tail and kept jumping like a monkey. Then he caught sight of someone. He thought that hopefully they could take him with them. Then he jumped down step by step. He sneaked from the side of the tree bark. Soldiers were guarding and carrying a cart. Arthur tried to hear their gossip. One of them shut her up. The door opened and all of them came out. He was amazed to see them. One person was saying that they should get ready to go. They were only a few days away from leaving this damned forest. A man with a short beard was tying a rope around a girl's leg. He said that elf girls go for a lot, don't they? The boss seemed like a scoundrel. The boss responded that she was a child too, so a virgin at that. She would definitely fetch them a lot. He told him to shut up and put her back in the carriage already. They needed to move. Arthur scratched his hand in anger. Those were slave traders. He saw her. She was a beautiful girl with silver hair. One of them asked to hurry it up back there. He had no idea how those pigs managed to get their hands on forest hounds. But he knew that getting one of them would be his best bet out of this forest. 3 horned wolves were pulling the cart. As for those slave traders, well, with all the crap that had happened to him lately, it looked like he would finally be able to let off some steam. Despite his eagerness to get home, he still needed a plan. He managed to jump across each tree bark smoothly. Dealing with those slave traders first was the best course of action. He sat on the first top stem of a tree above the ground. But he did not strike immediately. Attacking all 4 of them head-on would be suicide even for him. So he followed, waited, and gathered strength to make his move when their guards were down. It was time. He picked a seed covered in a hard shell and struck one of the wolves. They told the wolves to shut up before they woke up everything in the forest. Arthur thought that without a weapon, he was forced to utilize a technique from his previous life. A technique he wasn't even sure would work in this world. He thought they should just chew each other's antlers if they were that bored. One of the slave traders was carrying a meal for the wolves. Arthur considered that time best and attacked him, taking his dagger. The boss asked why the hounds were quiet now and what was taking him so long to come back. Was he taking a piss or something pink? Arthur attacked him and cut his throat. Arthur thought that as expected, fighting was a lot harder and more tiring in this body. He needed to finish this quickly while the last 2 were still sleeping. They both woke up and started moving toward the carriage. A man with long hair asked why they were being so noisy. Where was he? Pincus. A bald man got something thrown at his head. Instantly, he took his sword. Arthur moved at a fast pace between his legs and cut them down. 3 were down now. He made Danton cautious by informing him that the brat was a mage. He was astonished that a kid was a mage. Danton dropped his sword and said that they didn't want to accidentally kill the golden egg that had just landed in front of them. He asked if they did. He might even fetch more than the little she-elf. Danton attacked and said not to die, kid. Both fought. Arthur threw a large stone at his face that bruised his cheek. He took the dagger from Arthur's hand using magical powers. Danton said he had some cute tricks. He threw the dagger and asked him to catch it. Arthur knew he was fast. Arthur got repelled by the thrust. He said to come here, his bag of gold. Danton grabbed one of his legs and held him upside down. He told him to give up. He couldn't do anything with his little body. Condensing mana like a blade seemed to behave similarly to wind magic in this world. If that was the case, then fire magic should work too. Arthur condensed and exploded. This burned Danton's hand that was holding Arthur's leg. Danton said that the kid was dead. He took his sword out to attack, saying he didn't care even if he had to sell Arthur's corpse. He was dead. Arthur cut his throat in a single strike. The bald man pleaded for mercy. He was sure the little girl had said the same thing. Arthur opened the door of the cart and asked her to come out because it was safe now. She could go back home now. Her hands, feet, and mouth were tied. A girl who was kidnapped asked Arthur what this was for. There are things here little kids are better off not seeing. But she is also little. Arthur asked her to let them go. She told him not to take the cloth off until she says so. She stepped forward, having little visibility from the cloth on her eyes. She told him they should be a good enough distance away. He removed the strap from her eyes. She could look now. She thanked Arthur for saving her from the slave trader. Arthur greeted her, saying it was nice meeting her, and turned back with the intention to take his own way. She grabbed his shirt in confusion. She actually wanted to tell him not to leave her. She was scared. How could he abandon such a cute little girl in the woods, the piece of trash? Arthur informed her confidently that he needed to get home too. Those bad guys would not chase her anymore. But she was reluctant to leave his shirt. Arthur understood her intention and moved her hand away. He asked if, besides, elves were generally safe in this forest anyway. She nodded. Beasts are only scared of adults. Her parents said that kids will get eaten by hounds or tree golems. Arthur was worried after hearing this. He sighed, asking if she at least knew how long it would take to get to where she lived from there. She said she didn't know. He became irritated. Arthur moved forward. She became worried, thinking he was going on his way. He told her just to stay there. He would go gather some supplies for them. Hopefully the trip would not be too long. The girl became happy. He salvaged what he could for the journey ahead. He sat down to prepare the backpack. Neither of them knew how long it would take, and he also had to think about the journey back. He placed a dagger in its cover with him as a precautionary measure in case anything unpleasant happened. He picked something up from the ground and thought it was a shame they couldn't take the carriage, but it might be for the best. They would stick out like sore thumbs riding in that. Arthur let the hounds free so they could enjoy. One of the hounds had blood oozing from its mouth. Arthur took a warm jacket and placed it over his body as his shirt was torn. He thought he could only hope the elves had something that could take him back to the human kingdom. Arthur reached the spot where he left her. She was still sitting in the same place, playing with a little butterfly. He was holding a beautiful attire. Arthur said he found those clothes inside the carriage and assumed they were hers. Wear the cloak over them since it would probably get cold. She gave a pleasing expression and thanked him. Arthur patted her head. Let them get her back home. As they walked in the vague direction she pointed to, he got to know more about the elf child. Both moved happily toward their destination. Arthur asked her name. She said her name was Tessie Aerolith. What was his name? They stopped for a while. Tessie drank water and Arthur ate something. He said his name was Arthur Leywin. Tessie asked how he had ended up in the Elshire Forest. Arthur. It was a long story. They had time. A pack of wolves surrounded them. Arthur took out a dagger, pointed it at the wolf for defense, and held Tessia tightly. Let them just say he got separated from his family. Tessia said that meant he came from the human kingdom, right? A small butterfly, like living being, was sitting on her palm. She asked if it was true that all male humans were perverts and had more than one wife. Arthur asked what? Who told her that? She answered in an embarrassed way that it was her grandpa. Arthur asked if he was sure there weren't perverts among elves too. Wait, did she even know what pervert meant? Not really. He climbed up the tree. She answered his question, saying usually only some nobles preferred to have multiple wives. Now she got it. Arthur was questioning her continuously. He asked if she really did. Anyway, let him ask her a question. What was it like living in Eleanor? It was fun. She spent a lot of time with her caretakers and grandpa since her mom and dad were busy. Tessie saw a rabbit and started playing with them. Oh, once she awakened she would probably be given a mentor to train under. She was pretty excited about that. The education system seemed a bit more indiscriminating in Illinois if everyone was assigned a private mentor upon awakening. Arthur lifted a rabbit by the ear and had a dagger in hand, probably gonna cook it for a meal. She asked, indiscriminating what? Nothing, he was just talking to himself. They both sat down, gathered wood, and placed a pot on the fire to roast meat. She called Arthur and asked what happened to those bad guys that took her. He replied that they ran into a rather unfortunate accident. Would they try to come find her again? He promised she would never see them again. Tessia thanked Arthur for everything. They were getting warmth from the burning wood. Arthur said she should get some sleep. She asked what about him. He would keep guard outside. Arthur sat on the stones and started to meditate. He wanted to use the time to figure out what the will Sylvia left him was. Tessie peeked out of the camp and asked if he was sure he didn't need some rest too. Grandpa said to never share a bed with a boy, but she wouldn't tell on him. He said it was okay, he wasn't that sleepy. She became disappointed. She just remembered that beasts would more likely appear if they noticed he was out here because they would see he was a kid. Therefore, she proposed that, for their safety, he should keep guard inside the tent. It was for their safety, not because she was scared. He came inside, he got it now, sleep. Tessia pulled over the blanket and grabbed his shirt before sleeping. Tessia Aerolith, she had had it rough. Rest well. Rabbits came near the camp. They sniffed the fire and the human. Tessie had placed her head in Arthur's lap. They continued their journey, with unfamiliar surroundings and time quickly passing as the only indicator of their progress. Both moved across the forest confidently. After Tessia's initial desperation and fears had passed, it was obvious she had no idea how to interact with him. It was dusk when they were moving on a steep path. He would admit that worries about his family and impatience to get back home did not leave him in the best of moods. She was worried while Arthur was happy. Arthur was busy fixing the camp for their stay. While strengthening a rope, he grabbed his chest in pain. The pain was so severe that the axe fell from his hand, but what made the journey almost unbearable were the agonizing pains coming from his mana core that struck unpredictably. His face was covered with sweat. Teshi came and asked if everything was okay. He responded that he was fine. It was night and still he was facing high-frequency pain in his body. In the morning, they wound up and packed the luggage to continue their journey. Tessia seemed to be worried. Wolves followed them silently, waiting to attack until they found the perfect place at a suitable time. Arthur shielded their attack using mana powers. After that, he took cover under a tree and grabbed his body again, because this time the pain was coming more frequently. He thought to tell her. Instantly, he remembered that she would only worry. They spent one more night in the camp. Days passed and Tessia appeared to recognize more and more of their indistinguishable surroundings. However, their pace had slowed as Tessia's body could not keep up with the toll of constant travel. He snatched the luggage from her. They sat down for a while to rest. As for him, despite strengthening his body with mana, the pain continued to grow and it had become harder to hide it from the worried elf. He relaxed, thinking of poop. Tessia was troubled. They slept well. Arthur was asleep instead of guarding Tessia from hounds and wolves. In the morning when they were leaving, Tessia held his arm. She said she had been thinking since they had gotten to be close friends. Could she call him Art like how his family does? He said that he didn't mind. She was confused after hearing this. She asked if that was it. Arthur excitedly replied that he would be most honored that Tessia Aerolith may refer to this humble countryside boy by Art. She furiously replied that there he went, talking all weird again like some old man. Arthur mockingly responded that it was better than being a crybaby that couldn't even pee by herself without him nearby with his eyes closed and ears shut. She got extremely angry, opened his mouth wide by the sides of his cheeks, and ordered him to shut up. She thought she saw something. He also agreed that he saw something too. He saw moss and leaves and fog and trees, lots and lots of trees. Then both sat together to enjoy chit-chat. Still, it seemed that despite the mental age gap they had gotten closer. During the morning, Tessia tapped some trees. Arthur was shocked to see her. She said they were here. She was extremely cheerful. Upon tapping again, green light appeared and a cave opened. She entered that space and asked Arthur to come along with her.